Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, this is my YouTube channel called Sherelle Thinks, and I talk about everything health anxiety related. And hopefully these videos can bring you some comfort to know that you're not the only one. So in this video I want to talk about lymph nodes again. I think I've done a couple of videos on lymph nodes now, but it's something that causes a lot of anxiety for a lot of people. It's what started my health anxiety journey, and I was plagued by this fear for such a long time, and now I'm like fully out of it. So I just wanted to do this video. So those of you who know my story, you'll know that it started for me when I found a lymph node in my groin, which was about 3 weeks after I had my first child. And I just had, I think it was 5 or 6 months of absolute hell, to the point where I was suicidal over this lymph node. I was convinced that it was swollen, even though it was only the size of a bean, so a normal size lymph node. I saw multiple doctors, I had an ultrasound. I just was convinced that I had lymphoma and that I was going to die and that nobody was taking me seriously, and I was just in this panic. I couldn't eat, I wasn't sleeping. It was one of the darkest times of my life. Just awful. I was just so fully convinced, and I just felt like nobody was going to believe me. And eventually I did get out of it. I think time was a healer. I got to the point where it'd been like 6 months and nothing had changed. The lymph node was fluctuating in size purely because I was poking and prodding it all the time, so sometimes it would swell a little bit, then it would go back down. Yeah, it was awful. I even got to the point where I convinced myself, what if it's like a low grade, a slower growing lymphoma? But one day I did just snap out of it, and unfortunately it wasn't because I was cured of my health anxiety. It was because I just moved on to the next thing, which is kind of what happens with us with health anxiety. We just go from one thing to the next. So what I want to say though about lymph nodes is something that I've learned, and something that I've experienced and I know now, is that so many people will message me and say, I've got a swollen lymph node, blah 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 blah, and like I'll say to them, oh okay, how big is the lymph node? And then they'll say, oh it's a pea-sized node, or it's a bean-sized node, and I'm like, so it's not swollen then? And people are like, well yeah, it's just swollen. I'm like, and this is kind of the point I want to get across today, and the point that I wish I had got when I was at my worst, is that if you find a lymph node that is pea or bean size, so we're talking about 1 centimetre in diameter, that's the size they should be. They're not swollen. Swollen is grape sized, golf ball sized, kiwi fruit sized, size of an orange. That's swollen. Pea or bean size, that's the size they're supposed to be. That is them. It's like if you felt your, I don't know, your liver, and you know that your liver is supposed to be a certain size, you wouldn't say it's swollen. It's there because that's what it is. These are there because they're supposed to be there. It's the lymphatic system. It filters all of the crap. It helps us fight infection. They're really helpful little things. So that's the first thing that you need to get into your head, is if you find a lymph node that is the size of a pea or the size of a bean, it's not swollen. Because okay, let's just go down your train of thought now. If it's swollen, what size was it before? Because swollen means that it's enlarged. It's got bigger. It's swollen. So if you think that a pea-sized node is swollen, just ask yourself this question. Well, if it's swollen, what size would it have been before? Because what is it supposed to be? The size of a grain of rice? Is it supposed to be the size of like a poppy seed? Because if you're thinking that a pea-sized node is swollen, that must mean that your idea of a lymph node is something that is teeny tiny, which isn't the case, because they are supposed to be pea-sized or bean-sized. Sorry guys, there's somebody doing work, I think, in the houses behind me. And a lot of people get hung up on symmetry. They may have found one on one side and not on the other, so that's why they think there's something abnormal. But I think it's important to remember that we are not symmetrical. Human beings just aren't. Like, we're really not. I've got a pea-sized lymph node behind my left ear that has been there literally since I was a child. I've always had it, and I don't have one on the other side. And my daughter has the same. My son has two behind his right ear and not on the other side. The one that drove me crazy was the one in my groin, and you know, I found it 3 years ago now, and to be honest, it's probably been there for years. It's just I haven't noticed it, and that is the size of a bean. And I have some on the other side, but nowhere near as big as that one. But the point being is, if your lymph node is still in the normal range, i.e. the diameter, so the short axis, because let's just say they're an oval shape, the short axis, as long as that is not bigger than 1 centimetre, it's not even considered swollen. You know, where if you went and had an ultrasound on that, they're just going to say to you that they found a lymph node. If it's bigger, you know, if it's bigger than 1 centimetre, then yes, an ultrasound is probably the best thing to do there. But 99% of the time, it's going to be because you've had an infection or some kind of injury that you didn't even know. It could be something as simple as a splinter in your foot that you had 2 weeks ago that you didn't even think about, which has caused the lymph node in your groin to swell. But I do want to say, because a couple of people have called me up on this, that any lump that you find, yes, absolutely go and see a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you if something is benign or if it's something more worrying. I'm just going by the facts that I know about lymph nodes. And at the end of the day, you do need a professional to tell you that it is a lymph node and that it's not something else. But if you go to the doctor and they say to you, look, this is a lymph node, it's not swollen, it's small, it's the size that we expect a lymph node to be, at that point, I think you need to find reassurance in that, because having a scan is not going to change anything. They're going to tell you the exact same thing. If you've got a lymph node that's the size of a grape, yeah, okay, that's a different story. But even then, you know, doctors are most likely going to give you a course of antibiotics and tell you to come back in 2 or 3 weeks' time to see if it's gone down. Because, you know, that's how they deal with it. They see if it comes down, which most of the time it will, because it's due to an infection or an injury. And then if it doesn't come down, then after the 2-3 week period, they may either kind of monitor it and if it hasn't grown, give you another course of antibiotics to try and clear up this mystery infection, or they'll send you for an ultrasound and kind of get more investigations done. And the thing is as well, is a lot of people get hung up on the characteristics of a lymph node. Like mine in my groin, for example, it felt really firm and hard to me. Doesn't really move very much. And of course, if you read on Google, that's kind of the bad characteristics, because and I used to say that to my doctor all the time, but my lymph node doesn't move and it's making me worry. But the thing is, in my groin, there's loads of ligaments, there's a lot of things going on there, so it doesn't really have the room to wiggle around too much. That's another thing that, you know, Google didn't tell me. But I think that we worry about lymph nodes because at the end of the day, we're feeling around our bodies and we feel a lump, and a lump makes us anxious. We are conditioned to fear lumps, and the more you go searching for them, the more you're going to find. I remember when I was at my absolute worst, when I found the one in my groin, I went exploring. I found them all under here, all around my neck, in my armpits, you know. And there are like 600 of them in the whole body. Only some of them are palpable. And don't get me wrong, there are some areas where if you feel a lymph node, it is slightly worrying, like the collarbone. Then it's not really great if you find large ones around your collarbone and other areas. But, you know, mostly lymph nodes are going to be swollen because of an infection or injury. And if they are pea or bean size, they're not even swollen. I think that's something that a lot of us need to realise, because so many people message me and say they found a swollen lymph node, but then they tell me it's the size of a pea. So, and if you look, the thing is, maybe you don't believe me, but look at the definition of a lymph node on Google. It'll tell you it's a pea or bean sized shaped thing. That's what it is. So swollen is going to be significantly bigger than that. So if you're dealing with something that is the size of a pea or a bean, it's movable, it's not rock hard like concrete. Those are great signs. You should still see the doctor, you know, if it's causing you anxiety and you're getting really stressed out over it. Absolutely, go and see a doctor, go and see a professional. Like, I'm not a professional. And, you know, if one pops up randomly and it wasn't there before, go and get it checked, you know. But, you know, if you've been dealing with this pea-sized lymph node behind your ear for 2 years and nothing's changed, I think you should take some comfort from that. But absolutely, like, any concerns, see a doctor, like, and, you know, but I imagine they're going to tell you the same thing that I've just said in this video, just because it's kind of common knowledge that those sizes are not worrying, you know. They kind of worry when you walk in with a golf ball sized lump on the size of your neck. That's when doctors are like, oh, okay, let's go and get this checked. But I just wanted to put this video out because I know how bad it can be. I was absolutely delusional and deranged over mine for such a long time, and I wish I wasn't. I wish I just was just calm about it, because it's still there. It's never going to go away. Like, it's a lymph node, it's there for a reason. And I appreciate what lymph nodes do for us. You know, we got to give them some, we got to show some gratitude towards our lymphatic system, because it's something that we really need. You know, it's a vital part of us, and it helps us fight infection. So we shouldn't fear lymph nodes. We should be grateful for them. But unfortunately, Google leads us to believe that, you know, we should find a lymph node and go into full-blown panic mode, which is not the case. But yeah, any concerns, guys, go and see a doctor. They are the ones who are trained in this kind of stuff. But I just wanted to put this video out there and just say that, you know, I know how you feel. I've experienced it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Put a comment down below. Subscribe if you haven't done so far and you want to see more content. And I will see you guys on my next video. Bye.